Skill in communication is essential not only for your professional relationships, but with your clients as well. There are 4 factors for successful verbal communication. These include vocabulary and word choice. It is important to use language that everyone will understand. Use the client's language and words if possible. The second factor is clarity of the information. It is important to articulate clearly to ensure understanding. Speak slowly and try to avoid rambling. Your intonation and volume of speech make a huge difference. Paralegalistic behavior is a term that refers to tone, pitch, volume, and pacing. The way you say things matters. Try using I statements, as they are less threatening to the receiver. Lastly, the sender's attitude toward the receiver will impact understanding. Showing concern and empathy will make the world of difference. Time your responses appropriately to keep the lines of communication open. Above all, make eye contact and smile. There is a big difference between hearing and listening. Listening requires being actively engaged in the conversation. Professionals should aim for empathetic listening. This is a non-judgmental process where one is listening to gain understanding to the client's thoughts and feelings. There are 4 basic skills to active listening. These include attending behaviors, such as making eye contact, having a welcoming body position, and leaning in. Paraphrasing the person's statements help to demonstrate that you are listening and heard what was being said. Another skill is clarifying. It is okay to be confused, but make sure you ask for the person to rephrase it in a way that you do not have complete understanding of. Now you do. Lastly, always make sure to check for accuracy. This will help ensure true understanding. SOLER is an acronym that can be used to help with active communication. S refers to sit facing the client. O reminds you to observe an open posture. L means to lean forward toward the client. E equals establish eye contact. And R reminds us to relax. There are some barriers to active listening. The environment of the conversation makes a huge impact. Try to avoid interruptions, sensory overload, or distractions, both internal or external. Another barrier can be the attitude of the receiver toward the sender. Although it might be impossible to change the receiver's attitude, in general, the more negative the receiver's attitude, the more difficult it is to have effective communication. Lastly, manage your fixed beliefs. It is important to not be dismissive of information that is not congruent with your own personal beliefs. Even at times, people have been known to distort the information to match their personal beliefs. This slide lists several behaviors that often create a barrier to therapeutic communication with clients. These include giving advice or false reassurance. It is important not to promise things that you cannot control. Other behaviors that impact therapeutic rapport include jumping from topic to topic, being judgmental, interrupting the speaker, blaming, expressing disapproval, a hurried approach, being closed-minded, giving double messages, patronizing responses, and not displaying active listening behaviors. These are all discussed in your text as well. This slide lists several of the verbal communication techniques that help to ensure understanding and comprehension. These are also discussed in your text. Probing is a technique used to search for additional information while Reflecting refers to paraphrasing the effective part of the message to help the client understand feelings. Interpreting is when one offers a possible explanation for behavior, thoughts, and feelings. Confronting is when one challenges the discrepancies between the client's words and actions. This can be very effective, but often new therapists shy away from it as it can be very uncomfortable. Self-disclosing is when one shares personal information to assist the client. Self-disclosure should be used with caution. First, make sure you are sharing for the benefit of the client and not your own needs, as this could shift the focus off of the client and onto your personal needs. Also, sharing of personal information needs to be approached with caution. It is very important to keep your relationships with clients as a therapeutic. Minimal verbal responses are short verbal cues that indicate interest, such as saying, and yes. As a rule of thumb, providing feedback is an important part of the therapeutic process. Some suggestions for giving feedback include to provide feedback in all or nearly all performance situations. The feedback should be motivational, positive, and informational. Make sure the client clearly understands the feedback and always provide encouragement. Nonverbal communication may actually be more important than what we actually say. Approximately 2/3 of all communication is nonverbal in nature. Nonverbal behaviors express emotions and attitudes about people may want to verbalize. Nonverbal communication may actually be more important than what we actually say. Approximately 2/3 of all communication is nonverbal in nature. Nonverbal behaviors express emotions and attitudes that people may not want to verbalize, and our nonverbal actions are very important in interpersonal relationships. Self-awareness is essential to manage your nonverbal responses, as they often speak louder than your words. This slide lists some nonverbal communication skills that include managing facial expressions, maintaining an appropriate level of eye contact, and hand gestures. Proximity refers to the distance between people when they are communicating. There are 3 levels of proximity. Personal space ranges from 12 to 18 inches to 4 feet for informal interactions for those we know well. Social space ranges from 4 to 12 feet. For more formal business interactions, and public space ranges from 12 to 25 feet. There are some key terms to understand when talking about cultural diversity. These include culture, diversity, and cultural competency. Culture refers to the total integrated set of values and beliefs that socially define a group of individuals. Diversity is the differences and our varieties in culture. Cultural competency refers to the skills, knowledge, and behaviors that allow professionals to work effectively with diverse populations. It is important to remember that culture does play a key role in our verbal and nonverbal communication techniques. Some cultures place a high value on using persons' formal names when addressing each other. Others have different viewpoints on what is considered appropriate eye contact and proximity. Developing your cultural competency for the population you are working with is essential to ensure there is no misunderstanding of verbal and/or nonverbal communication skills.